on You Live. Season 12 is brought to you by Error 4444. Error 4444 is a film distribution label based in the US that is dedicated to restoring and releasing cult action, horror, sci-fi, and exploitation films on Blu-ray from across Asia, which is absolutely sick. I am so excited for these releases and for this company. They strive to release hidden gems that are either out of print or have never had the treatment of, the Blu-ray, the DVD treatment in the US, and giving these films the collector's editions that physical media fans of world genre cinema deserve. So cool. I love it. Their first ever Blu-ray release, Anatomia Extinction, directed by Tokyo Gore Police director YOSHIHIRO Nishimura, is now available on their site exclusively at error4444.bigcartel.com. That is error4444.bigcartel.com. It's limited to 1,000 copies, and they have less than 25% of their stock remaining. So they're dwindling, and they're super limited. Horror collectors like myself eat this stuff up. Go and check them out right now. I have my copy pre-ordered, and I completely support these guys. I'm so happy to be working with them and them helping me out this season. This season is This Is Hell month. So excited. Really, really cool guests. Thank you very much for stopping by. Enjoy the episode. And 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome to another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys growing on you live. Today, live on the show, we're going to be having on my dudes Dan Briggs and Walter Fancourt from Disorder Assembly. If you guys have not checked this out, it is certainly a world-traveling jazz octet, I believe it's 8 members. Absolutely sick. So cool. If you guys haven't checked this out, rolling. Let's see. All right, fellas, what is going on?
What's up? We had big audio over here, and I lost you for some reason on my Bluetooth. I can still hear you. It's just less loud. Walter's pre-gaming with a horror movie on here, so
yeah. Okay, nice. You know, I was kind of doing a little prepping as well, and I was watching a movie last night called Inside. Did you guys ever see that one? You ever heard of it?
No.
So, right, like the earlier 2000s, there was a big push of like the French real extreme horror, and it's a French film, and man, it's just as uncomfortable as I remembered it. If you get the opportunity, we're gonna dig into that all later on, but yeah, that's rough.
I'm putting down notes.
You said it's in the 2000s, or when?
Yeah, it was 2007, I believe. That's when that one came out. They had a remake that came out in like 2011 or 12. That was like an American remake. Not good.
No, those never work.
Yeah.
Some interesting years to talk about for this. Like, there was some stuff. I mean, we'll get to it. But I was like, initially when I was like, oh, we're going to talk about our favorite horror movies, I was thinking in my head, all the stuff I love in the 70s. Some stuff in the 80s, and then some like newer stuff, and then like early mid 2000s. I was like,
it gets pretty confusing, and I like that question because I found some that I totally forgot about that I really like, and then I had to like be like, all right, I guess this is my choice.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. There's definitely one that I fell into that category as well because I don't know if it was like maybe 2004 or something like that. I was like, boy,
2007, big time.
Okay, nice.
4 and 7 was weird, and I don't know if that was just the time. I remember telling Walter like these movies weren't necessarily like they didn't have a great like artistic quality to them, and I wondered if that's just dumping out whatever, and there weren't the smaller A24s or whatever that were doing like the really cool, like art-focused, art-centric ones like you see now. And so I think it was just this weird period.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. And then there's also the occasional super duper high budget stuff that's sometimes comes out really great. That's weird.
Yeah. So now let me ask you, as far as just to start this bad boy off, all right, digging in a little bit of music and personal interests for our intro question. Take us back, earlier time at being at a record shop or maybe a CD store, what was an early album that the cover art drew you to buying it? You didn't even know who the artist was. What is something that comes at the top of your head there, the cover art?
Yeah, my favorite ones when I was a kid were ones that you would just, there was so much to look at that you get lost in it. And the first CD I bought was Dookie by Green Day. And if you remember, it's like, it was kind of like like an R-rated Where's Waldo.
Yeah.
Almost. So much. And for like a 10-year-old kid, I mean, not only the music, but I spent so much time pouring through that.
Okay. I like that.
I had that probably the size of this window, like the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could like really see the dogs smoking weed and shooting bombs off the roof.
Yeah.
My album, I used to, whenever we would have any kind of money, me and my friends would go to the used CD store, Ed McKay's, and just buy whatever that looked cool. And I'd probably be about 12 years old or something, and I bought the Tribe Called Quest album that I can't even remember. It's like probably their most like classic one. Like, can you kick it? Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay.
It's got that like you turn it and it changes the artwork when you move it, and it's like scratchy.
Yeah, so sick.
Alien shooting a laser gun or something. A funky hip hop record. Like, awesome.
Yeah, that's funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, something that, draws the eye, and, there's certainly, it's like, it's too cool not to pick up. You're like, all right, hopefully this doesn't suck because it's the only $20 I have.
Oh, and for CD stores when they used to have the dollar bin. And I used to dig through the dollar bin and grab shit where I was, on tour or something in the early 2000s where I would just be like, it's $1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
I think I got REM's Monster record for like $1.
Oh, if you go into
nice.
as areas like that, you can find excellent stuff.
It's just like
Really?
synth guitars and all this.
Yeah.
And all this weird, always fun.
Yeah. It's always the best too when you find something like, that's like such a solid, buy, or even with like movies, sometimes you go in and you look through like a used bin and it's like something that's, you've never been able to find, and they have it for like 15 cents somewhere in some random ass bin. You're like, all right, this is going to be a good day.
Like walking into a movie store. Yeah. Like when the RIP.
When they were closing, remember? You'd be able to go into Blockbuster and get like 5 movies for $15 or something.
Yeah, and just judging the cover, just being like, well, this must be good, or sometimes being terribly disappointed.
Yeah.
We had a great video store here.
That's fun.
Unreal. And when I moved here in 2005 and I went, in 2005 it blew me away because it was like they had all the new stuff, but it was like they never got rid of anything.
And they knew every single thing by year, date, everything.
You could rent the new movie that came out and then find like, Airheads on VHS or something.
Oh, damn. Wow.
That's
amazing.
That's insane.
That's great.
Were they selling all of that stuff too? Like when they were about like shutting down?
Work at that point. I was calling people.
It closed so fast. I think they were selling stuff online.
Yeah.
That was one of the times I used to have this. Thankfully, it doesn't. Well, I haven't been on tour in over a year, but it used to always happen to me where I'd go on tour and come back, and I'd always be like, "Oh shit, what changed?" And it was usually stuff opening here. Like, thankfully, in Greensboro and the bigger cities in North Carolina, there's usually like expansion and stuff's been growing and not stuff disappearing. But that was the one where I came home and it was just like video review was gone all of a sudden, and
man,
that was a major. I miss that. I miss walking through and just picking something up that you have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same way too. You could go through, like a video rental shop and see something just based off of the cover art, and it was like a damn poster, in and of itself. And you're like, I don't know what this is, but hopefully it makes my weekend awesome.
Yeah, and now you're just like, of course you still have that option with streaming stuff, but
that's true.
What sucks is that you have the option of watching like 15 minutes and being like, meh.
Right.
Yeah.
Have like a DVD. It's like, well, this is it.
Yeah. I guess the one nice thing with like DVDs and Blu-rays is that you don't have to sit there and go back and, you know, over and over when the fucking thing's scratched, you know. You get home and like it skips every other 2 minutes. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna deal with it, I guess.
That's very true. Yeah.
So now you guys digging into, you know, as far as somewhere was it 2011 you guys had met?
Yeah,
Like
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay. And then where, you know, you guys talking, you know, music as fans, where did the conversations go as far as playing music together?
My earliest memory is me having a barbecue from where I'm at right now, like 3 blocks away from here, where I lived when I was like 18, 19 years old, with my friend David, and he lived with my friend David's brother, and they came over, and I knew he played music, and I think he knew I played music, and really casually just hung out and started listening to music together.
Yeah.
Like this, it's not like to find someone like Dan. It's like it's not like it's pretty few and far between, you know.
Yeah. It's weird for as especially back then when, you know, the Biz was doing shows and stuff, like the 2 people in a, you know, mid-sized city here didn't know each other. You know, it was like we were in separate musical worlds.
Totally.
And you know, we have 6 or 7 years between us, you know, which was, I guess, maybe a thing too, just like as far as like who you were growing up with, who you were playing, who I was playing with, and the world I was in.
Yeah.
But it was really organic. It wasn't like I showed up and handed him sheet music or whatever. It was.
I literally had no idea like what Between the Buried and Me and any of that was.
Oh wow! Okay.
And
I played literally like avant-garde jazz and like Afrobeat and funk music. I've always listened to everything, but I just had no clue. Pretty much.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a total disconnect from anything with that, you know, as far as like, oh, hey, you're in a, you know, pretty cool band. Like, let's do something. It was just more or less kind of meeting somebody that was into the same shit.
I was just playing music with someone I just met. That's literally all that's
sick.
occurring tonight.
Yeah, and
nice. I love that.
I had our drummer in Trioscapes, Matt, kind of logged in the back of my brain from his band opening for Between the Buried and Me, like a few years prior. And it was just an opportunity arose to play, and it was like, let's just pull these things together. And I remember even when we like recorded our first album, we had no idea what it sounded like. We played a lot, and it was a force, but we didn't know what it was.
No, it was just put together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so now, so Trioscapes was the first thing that you guys had done, right? Because I know Walter was on, I think, Parallax too, right? You had played on one of the albums, but that was after the first Trioscapes, right?
Yeah. We would have written that the year before, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. And then so as far as what were some of your influences when Trioscapes was coming around? I know that there was, you know, certain things that were out there that were, you know, kind of a mix of prog and metal, instrumental, but it's definitely something in and of its own. You know, did you have certain things that kind of, you know, were initial ideas for you guys?
I feel like in general, like if I just generalized and summed up what Trioscapes was, it was the coming together of like mine and Matt's dense, tight thing and Walter's freer side. And it was meeting somewhere in the middle, sometimes more this, you know. And Walt wrote some really dense lines that, you know, that we learned and dementified. But then he pulled in, you know, the further free section, and some of my favorite stuff in looking back were the freer moments on the second record. And what's really cool tying in with the music we're doing now is that it's so much more that. And I just felt, you know, that would have been the next jumping off point, you know, and we just kind of happened to years later.
Yeah.
Something else.
Oh, okay. What would you guys say? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, how's it go? You got it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we talked about
Well,
Zappa,
I mean, Zappa, Mark DeCray was a thing that, but really it was kind of, Yeah, I mean, I had been listening. I guess I guess my version of like the closest thing to like a prog metal world to me was my deep obsession with Frank Zappa. I love Frank Zappa like more than like anybody in the world. Like any question, I know it. Like, but I've never been into like prog metal per se. You know what I mean?
What is this you're seeing?
Yeah, this shit's insane.
You want to tell them the movie we're watching?
We're watching Shocker. Do you know Shocker?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Okay.
So weird to me because I don't know why the guy is so pissed.
He's in prison.
I was like, why do you keep trying to attack me? And he's like, ah! And it's all
that's funny. It's been a long time since I've seen that one. That's a good movie.
really quick. Just hold on. Let's see if you can. He just got electrocuted, but he's immune to being electrocuted now. Let's see. Well, whatever.
Yeah,
All
gotcha.
right, here we go.
Yeah,
There you go. He's stoked on it.
he's still getting it. Yeah.
He
Oh my God.
and then he just
Man,
continues. It's basically like the movie Maximum Overdrive from here on out. It's just like
That's incredible.
it's just pure rage and confusion for no reason, I think.
Dude, did you like Maximum Overdrive?
Yes, there's a part when a soda machine kills a children's baseball team.
Well, Walter, that movie is literally probably top 3 favorite horror movies of mine of all time, and people trash the shit out of that movie. I love it.
It's a really confusing movie.
Oh my God,
I'm
love
really
it.
glad that we brought that up because I've watched it twice in the last 2 years, and it's pretty weird.
It's amazing. The drawbridge, you have the old ATM calling Stephen King an asshole, dude.
I think he was going through some tough times.
A whole lot of coke.
Anyways,
yeah. So as far as with back on Trioscapes, there, if you guys could recommend, somebody that haven't, listened to the band, what would be a track that each of you would recommend for somebody to check out?
I like Digital Dream Sequence is probably my favorite track to listen to.
And I think
Totally.
that idea, because that's one of those ones that live was always something kind of different.
Yeah, it's just I'm pretty sure it's the first thing that we started working on, and like I feel like him and Matt kind of already had a thing, and I just improvised over it a few, like just how we get together is because we all live, like I live in New York, Matt lives somewhere in Georgia.
We still don't
I
know.
honestly don't even know where. Bro, so it's all this weird remote shit, which I'm at this point so used to. When I first moved to New York, I was like, "Man, I'm moving to New York." This is what, but now it's like it doesn't. It's whatever.
Okay.
But
Is there different struggles with having to write remotely, as far as like it's not like an acoustic guitar and something that you can just put into like a saxophone. If you're in an apartment, somebody's pounding on the wall, like, what the fuck are you doing?
But basically what happened is I got the demos from that, and then we get in a room all together,
Right.
and we pretty much all have each other's ideas. We've already circulated all the ideas, and we just gotta make them work.
Glue them or drop them in place.
But for that song, I feel like I remember just kind of going in and improvising over it, and basically just keeping what I like.
There's great melodies.
It's slow, like
So sick.
and I'm just like, I'm playing like, oh, da, da, da. It's like really slow and out of time, and
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the transition to kind of what we're working on now with like disorder assembly stuff, which is
This almost more like, if you're looking in terms of percentages, it's more like free with some like dropped in composed things.
Yeah, it's
and the
like
free stuff is based around those.
Yeah, there's like a motif or whatever, and like, so as wild and far out as it goes, you can always kind of get back to to where you need to be just by kind of doing this and eyeballing. But that music, you know, Trioscapes is music that's very timed out, meticulous, like music. This is way more like what you hear on that record. I don't know if Spirit of the Dinosaurs, I think it's the first take, maybe the second take.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No one in that room at that time had ever played music with Dan besides me.
Yeah.
We had never rehearsed really, and I mean, mode like just the ideas, and it's basically we had like a whiteboard, and you kind of like you're like idea 1, idea 2, idea 3. Let's say I don't know exactly how that, you know, and you conducting just being like 1, 2, like drop in, drop out.
Yeah.
Not
Oh, wow. Okay.
or not counting. It's more of like you know, this part might happen for 10 minutes or it might happen for 3 minutes.
Okay.
However,
it was really interesting, and it's also because we just did a record last week, and not Disorder, but it's basically has some of the same people. It's three of the same
it's
people,
an assembly of sorts.
yeah, different assembly,
Yeah.
and I think we're falling in love with this idea of, I definitely am, of recording live in the room, having all this great magic that happens over a few takes, and then taking it home.
Yeah.
And, you know, finding the vibe that was in the room and adding on top of that a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Especially, yeah, I mean, this will come out whenever, but how that all worked, like working remotely, and yeah, just these little, coming up with these little themes, and yeah, it's a whole new way of writing we've kind of come
because
up with.
when you go into the studio for 2 days, like we've done with both these projects, you cannot wrap your mind around what you've done.
Yeah.
And, you know, and there's usually not time to go in and listen through, say, Spirit of the Dinosaurs is like 15 minutes long. We couldn't listen to 3 takes. You just kind of eternally knew, like, okay, I think that was the one, right after you play it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You listen a week later, you know, when we got the file.
It's very much a live vibe. You know, and I come from a history of exclusively recording live, very much live music, like and the other projects I play, like Super Yamba Band. It's music that you can track it, but it's not going to come out the right way. It's just on a record, it's not going to sound the right way, but you don't know. It's a lot of like, is this it? Like kind of feeling it. Like when we're all done, we all look at each other, because it's like he's saying, we're like in certain cases like that, like if we're recording to tape or something, which I just recently did, you're like, well, we can't just keep going, like, you know.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be like, well, I like my solo better on this one, I played better on that one. And in certain cases, like what we did last week, you know, there's certain things you can take in that you can redo at home later on, and certain things that you're just going to have to deal with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Damn.
Wow,
okay.
I like hearing a little bit of struggle in music. That's what, like, for Disorder Assembly, I really had people, especially for like Lizards of Boz, listening to music from like Miles Davis and like the early 70s, like 72 to 75 era, where the bass player just will play a riff.
He just jumps out.
And it'll just be like, just one riff solid for like 20 minutes. And it gets weird. Everyone is just getting really weird.
Guy's probably stoned off his ass.
There's no like melody. There's like, the song is that bass line.
Right. But it's interesting when you listen to something like Live Evil and they play stuff from Bitches Brew.
Totally.
That's like, all it is like that Rhodes cluster chord.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's the motif. That's the thing. You know?
But and it's also absolutely, and I've had a big problem with this since I'm a saxophone player and I played all sorts of dance music and everything. It's absolutely in no shape, form, or fashion jam music. It's not that. It's very organic, avant-garde, more jazz. influence. And like even gets touches on like classical, especially at the end of that song. It goes from like a funk kind of like vibe into like a.
You're talking about Boz.
Boz, yeah. To like a prog, to like a arranged pretty thing.
But it gets kind of like John Carpentry in the middle.
It does, yeah.
That synth riff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's certainly moments, in the record where at different times, it brings me to like a whole completely different world. And that's kind of something I was going to touch on a little bit later too. But, especially with like the synths and, certain things. But that's interesting to hear as far as, that it's just kind of a very free process and it's not something where it's, track by track. Because I kind of wonder with that. I mean, I know some bands, do a little bit with that. And Trioscapes, I think, maybe even with some of the drumming, with some of the more, I don't know if it would be like considered like lenticular or like the style drumming that Matt does with that. But, he's a beast, and certainly.
Right?
Say it one more time.
You're a drummer?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I don't understand drummers' brains, and Matt especially, the way that he takes in his brain processes and hears and then materializes to his hands what we're doing. There's something that happens in there that's completely different than
that was a big thing with me. I think that was a big thing with Daniel Yant, the drummer on one of the drummers on Disorder Assembly. He's been my drummer on every project that I've ever done since I was probably 17, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And we come from a strict jazz background. That's how we were educated. And Dan are more classically educated. And it was funny for me going into Trioscapes and being like, trying to wrap my head around the way that we're going to go about like a solo section, per se. And then like having Dan come in to the Disorder Assembly world with Daniel Yant playing drums and kind of seeing how we've just been doing the way that we do our thing, the way that we've always been doing it, and seeing how it works. It's a really cool way of, sharing worlds.
Daniel, on the Disorder stuff though. And
oh yeah.
It surprised me because I was familiar, seeing Daniel play with Walt and the Super Yamba stuff, and just holding it down. Like you were talking about the bass and Miles,
Mm-hmm.
Daniel's just always holding it down, the little fills,
it's
little titties. And but then like we were doing the Disorder stuff, and like I said, it was 2 days and it was so much happening in the room that I was aware there was really cool rhythmic stuff happening with the two drums. And then we went back as a trio to do the third track, The Sky Opened and Fire Fell. And I just could not believe what I was hearing from Daniel. And I was just like, I just thought he was this nice boy behind the drum. Dark.
Yeah.
And then getting to sit with the Disorder record and the like him and Scott, just happened. I just was so cool. I mean, I'd never been in the room with two drum sets.
I grew up.
Yeah, that was totally something that was an even more, added ingredient with seeing this stuff, is hearing the music and then seeing some of the videos with the two, live kits and the two drummers playing at the same time. Like, all right, what the hell is going on here? I got to do some studying.
That was tough because when Chris was mixing, I mean, we were struggling to try to find a good blueprint. And one of the references that I had was actually Echoes by Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's like mixed right up in the middle, just normal panning. And then it gets to that long, spacey section where they kind of jam for a bit. And the drums are all of a sudden, panned almost 50-50. It splits into him two drums. Dude, it's phenomenal. He just did a second track playing to himself. And what you get is like, with two drummers, you don't have to have radical polyrhythms happening. All it takes is someone hitting on the da-da. And you get this do-do. Like,
you've really got, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, it was wild.
What would you guys say as far as like a timeline for, like as far as when you initially started writing to, you know, kind of the studio? How long were you guys working on this album here?
A week.
A week.
A week.
A week.
Yeah.
That's it. Finished beginning to end 1 week.
Walt had a run-through demo with most of the guys.
Yeah,
Spirit of the Dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And then he sent me just a keyboard lick of the Boz bass lines, and we fleshed that out in the room, in the studio, like right before we recorded it. And then just a couple days before, I was like, well, shit, Walt's got 2 tracks. I want to write something for 8 people, you know. And then that was it. I just started together, you know, a lot of it, you know, like I remember even coming in that morning and working through the end of it with Daniel. Just like, oh, I guess we could go into double time here and then do these hits. And it just happened like that. There was no thinking, really.
So quick. And,
Whoa.
And like shortly after, right after that, me and Daniel's other group, our group from like 10 years ago, the Brand New Life, we did the same thing where I was just like, we need to book 2 days in here, and we got like, I think 4 hours of material or something.
Oh my God.
But it's a cool way of working on music, you know?
Totally.
You'll get something out of it, you know? When you're all working together in the moment like that, it's really cool, you know, especially when you get, you know, I mean, I guess for me, it was all the people I had literally grown up playing music with. Every one of them I had grown up playing music with. So it was, communicating was like no problem. Just like, let's do that, bam, 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 bam. Like,
it was great for me to come into that world because, you know, I mean, the whole genesis of it was just the guys from bigger cities being displaced after the gigs dried up during the pandemic.
Yep.
And everyone all of a sudden was back in Greensboro from New York, from New Orleans, and just pulling everyone together. And it was great because a lot of the guys I didn't know, like even being like I'd met Casey and said hi, I'd never like hung out with them and discussed with them. And I love these guys, and I've hung out with, you know, become really close with Daniel and Jared and all the guys. Everyone's rad. The Fry Bushes.
Oh, okay. I mean,
everyone's like that idea all over again when I met Walter, where I was like, wait, these guys are all here in North Carolina, and
you know, and I like the fact you'd mentioned too, as far as, you know, kind of capturing the energy of it and capturing the feel of the room and just kind of, you know, embodying all that. And then, you know, if there's something where, you know, you have to bring in a little bit of technology and there was a solo that you liked on another take or something that you wanted to cut in, you know, having that opportunity too, you know, it's cool being able to, you know, hold that. Were there any moments where, you know, you might have had a solo that you really wanted to include, or a certain part that it just didn't end up melting, you know, in the final mix?
Well, I mean, with things, you know, with like that, you're all in the same room. Like with a horn solo, there's absolutely no option. If you mess, like, you're so, because there's mics.
All
everywhere.
the mics pick up the horn. The horn is so loud. Yeah.
You're 100%. There's no way you can fix anything. You gotta just live with whatever your take is.
Right.
Okay. No added pressure.
But in that session, no, not really.
I didn't overdub. I think we only overdubbed some synth stuff and some flute.
Yeah, we overdubbed some synth stuff. There's for a thing like that, there's not really room for fixing, but there's, you can overdub it. Totally. Yeah.
Totally. Okay. Nice. Was there anything on Combustion Fossil as far as, you know, something that might have pushed you guys beyond your comfort and, you know, kind of had something where it was a little bit out of your realm, but you were stoked on it?
I was nervous going into it because it was just a totally different thing for me. I mean, it was just, you know, I mean, a lot of those guys had never been inside the biz.
Yeah.
You know, like Sam and all of them, they had never been in there, and it was, you know, that's a homely place for me, and that helped. But, you know, I had a chart of Spirit of the Dinosaurs that was just, it was like the riff, it was some of the ideas, some of the things that I had kind of wanted to get to as landmarks, but it was just, you know, it took a take to just get comfortable with what was happening, and then just kind of fell into it. And it was really interesting to listen to after the fact and be like, oh, that's what we did, you know, and then be able to hear it like I was talking about when you get to take something home. But I think that's what was so cool was when you have 8 different people, like no one has to cover any extra space. In Trioscapes, it was like Walter and I were both rhythm instrument and lead guitarist.
Yeah.
And that's like, that was a fucking lot.
Like Lizards of Oz, the entire sax solo, the beginning of the song, until Dan starts his solo, I'm not doing it. I'm just sitting there.
Yeah. One of the horn players.
I wrote parts, but you know that's like the band effect. That's why, yeah, like Trioscapes, it's like we're covering everything, but when you got like, it's cool, yeah.
Everyone was almost kind of brought into that,
yeah,
because of their thing, you know. Sam didn't have to like write ripping organ solos.
No, he's just like him being on it is just, he's just all over it. Yeah,
right.
It's great. Yeah.
And the way Chris kept mixing it, to get 8 people, it just seemed like it was going to be so hard. So it was just giving everyone their spot in the mix, like we were in the room. So Sam's kind of over here, the horns are here, and the drums are kind of here, the bass is up here, and Jared's kind of over here, doing all his weird sounds and tuba. Listen on the stereo, it really, I mean, there's something
it sounds
that
really
pops
wild.
out from
I definitely I didn't listen to it until on purpose until it like came out. Well, of course I listened to it like while we were mixing and mastering, blah blah blah. But for a few months, and then I like went on a walk and like, yeah, it's cool.
You need the space when you're living. Because with a lot of the records, like the BT Bam record we recorded at the end of the year, it was like I lived with that fucking record for so long.
Yeah.
Like after it was mastered, like I haven't gone to it, and like I know it'll be fun to go back and listen to, but like, holy shit, I had
Yeah.
full on like remove myself, cut it out of my brain.
I mean, I'm currently sitting on 4 other albums that are just there.
If you live in them, I mean,
They're ready, but
Yeah.
I mean, until tour,
yeah, it's
I
hard.
don't know. Yeah.
Damn.
At least
Okay.
we're lucky enough with this project that the way that taking something like this on tour is not like something. I mean, it's something I haven't thought about it at all, because it's a product of needing to just go completely insane and
We'll bust audiences into us.
Well, that's what I'm
we'll
saying.
set
I
up.
mean, I could see there being a Disorder Assembly New York, Disorder Assembly Greensboro, Disorder Assembly, whatever. There's just like a certain core, you know how it is.
Couple of members, play live.
Large group, and trust me, I've worked in large groups since I was a kid because I like jazz way too much. You got to be, you get used to being like, hey, well, you can't make the stage, I'm going to call this guy. That's that.
Yeah.
You're showing the band. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's it. It's just
Right.
It's part of the world, it's hard to get 9 people in a room together.
It is.
And that's that.
And I think everyone that's on the record has a different, like, feeling of ownership with it. Like, I would love for everyone to feel like,
Yeah.
this is the fucking group, you know what I mean? But it's like,
We all have
everyone might not,
so many projects.
and a lot of it gets pushed on that it's like mine or Walter's thing, just because I released the record or whatever, you know what I mean? But I'm just like, this record wouldn't have been what it was without everyone going off, and the outlines of what was brought in was very loose. I mean,
Totally. It just takes a good group of people, and you can always make some, like, I think for the thing that we did last week, it's different, but it was kind of the same situation. A bunch of people, we never really played the music all together, and then you kind of just learn how to play music with those people, and
very gently, very gently in some cases.
Gently, yeah, but it's also the music's designed in a way that's like, as long as you trust that the people are good musicians, that if they understand the idea of the song and the concept, even though it's very conceptual and open and not timed, you don't know when the melody is going to happen, whatever. It will come out well if you know, just listen and trust each other. It's just different.
Okay. I think a beautiful thing with it too, as far as listening from a fan standpoint, is that it's not one particular person, that stands out or that is overly flashy. Throughout the whole thing, there's one moment where you can be like, man, the horns here are absolutely just slapping. Like, this is like really, and then it could be the very next measure where there's this absolutely wild synth part that comes in. It's really cool as far as hearing, all of the different things that kind of intertwine through and through. I mean, really from beginning to end, it's definitely really entertaining. And then, you brought up listening on a stereo, I listened in my car and all of a sudden some shit pops up back here and I'm like, what the fuck was that? So it's definitely a cool experience.
I feel like there's some scores in some of the movies that we're going to talk about that are kind of like that. That I had on in the car.
The only one that I can think of the cool score was that.
It's
that one.
So terrifying, man.
Nice. I love that. All right, couple more here as far as with the album. One thing I wanted to ask about was the cover art, the painting that James Clemens had that ended up on the cover art there. What can you tell us about that bad boy?
I've known James since I was 11 years old. I went to Kaiser Middle School with him. We were great friends, and then spent a few years not really knowing each other, and I had him do album artwork for me. For my band, The Brand New Life, that was so bizarre and conceptual, and it turned out so well. So weird. He does all sorts of kind of art. The art for that, I had him draw a man feeding, a husband and wife feeding each other rice out of a coconut.
Okay.
It was so weird, and then I guess he knows how to do all sorts of stuff. Weird art and
just all kinds of stuff. He's got like a bit of like Boy Scout in him.
Yeah,
I mean, he could build you something. I don't know. He's
very handy. But I think since I've moved to New York, him and Dan have hung out so much more, and his art has changed like drastically from when we were when I lived here and hung out with him all the time. It's nothing
it's out of control. I have a piece from him that's maybe like 5 feet by 5 feet. That's just the most explosive thing, and I think it was a no-brainer. I mean, there's 3 different guys that worked on the LP in different facets. Photography, typography, and then painting, and they're all what I refer to as Greensboro All-Stars. I mean, Ben Tuttle lives in New York now, but he grew up in Greensboro, and he's the type master, and he put the whole thing out and gave it its neat look. But we loved the idea of the cover being this just art, just an explosion of art, and then the back being just real, plain like the old jazz records.
I love that. I've always wanted to put our record out like that.
Nice.
I think it explains the music. It works well with the album.
And there was no conversation with James. It was, I think I sent him a song.
Yeah. He's working on a tattoo for me right now. That's pretty. I wish I had it right now. That's pretty insane. It's actually involving Mr. Voorhees right here. Oh.
Nice.
I haven't even told you this. I'm going to get it. It was a deal. I was just at the beach, and I got my friend a sweater made that says Dodge Ram on it's really dumb looking. But he's good friends with all these tattoo artists. And I was like, I'm a huge Zappa fan. So I wanted to get a Zappa. I don't usually get dedication tattoos. I got some pretty dumb tattoos. But I took, it's this image of, from a Zappa cover, guys jumping up with a saxophone, but I want it to be Jason Voorhees jumping up with a saxophone, and there's goo dripping off of it. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, James is currently drawing that.
Look at this far out. This movie's
it is. Drive.
It gets better.
He
Just
gets
better.
inside of different people. Because the energy in overdrive is the evil gets inside of all of the electric stuff.
Vehicles. Yeah, electronics. Yep.
In this one, it's Walter from X-Files. Just he gets inside
The prison.
He's electric right now, and he's about to get inside the socket or something.
Yeah.
This is a cool part.
He's gonna travel through the walls. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, something cool like that.
So sick. All right, so digging in a little bit to score wise. So one thing I was gonna say about Combustion Fossil is that the album, there was different moments that really brought me into different realms, whether it was video games, movies, different, scores. While listening to The Sky Opened and Fire Fell, I felt like I was in the abduction scene in Fire in the Sky. Have you guys ever seen that movie?
No.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Right, that one.
Yeah, for that, I mean, the idea of Spirit of the Dinosaurs came from Walt's nephew singing it, and I think we just were like, well, we're making this record about dinosaurs, and so the end of the dinosaurs is not great, and so there had to be a moment where the comets were coming down, and that's that song, and the only conversation was really just telling Walt that I was in A, and then we just looked at Daniel for the downbeat, and that was it. We did a few takes of it.
Yeah,
and
nice.
It was super, super, super
Nice.
There's
There's a looming kind of cadence to that track, and if you ever get the opportunity to watch that movie, I think it's on Amazon Prime even. It's called Fire in the Sky. It's an alien movie. There's it was based on a true story for whatever that means, but this guy went on to write books and he talked about his experience, but it's truly one of the creepier fucking things in like any alien abduction movie. Like it's creepy. It is. And it just reminds me, like, that whole kind of introduction piece reminds me of that scene. So if you guys get the opportunity to watch that, I would definitely say
drone that's going through, which is basically all the other members from an outtake from Spirit of the Dinosaurs, just woven into weirdness with that berry. That.
Oh yeah.
Nice. And the next one I wanted to hit on too, as far as for a moment, was in Extinction Ritual. I couldn't help but feel like I was playing the video game. Do you guys remember N64's Rampage?
Absolutely, yeah. 64. Dude. The ultimate. It's when I was done with video games.
I didn't play video games.
I was in middle school.
Oh man.
No, I love. Yeah, I celebrate.
Casey would have, if the guy ripping the sax solo over that, he would have been like, oh hell yeah, probably. Right? Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, Rampage.
Yeah, there's just something about, like, it reminded me of like the main menu when you're flipping through the characters and they're just kind of sitting there like doing their thing, and like the cadence of the music on top of like what was happening in that game. I was just like, oh man, they need to remake this game and put this song in this.
I don't remember the last time I wrote a song that wasn't based off of something influenced by a movie or a cartoon.
Nice.
I just wrote an entire pop album that's going to be entitled Lakes. That's just about horrible things that could possibly happen in a horror movie around a lake.
Nice. I like it. Look, Creep Show 2 action.
Honestly, that's why I love like the Misfits and stuff so much, because it's just, he's just talking about my favorite kind of movies. That's always.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I love it. It's, yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's sick. Now, Walter, you had mentioned a story a little while back about something to do with Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah,
I had to save it because I needed to save it for a special occasion here.
Yeah.
Hit me with it. What happened with old Lloyd?
This was a really, really weird. So Lloyd Kaufman, if anyone doesn't know, he directed Toxic Avenger and Class of Nukem High. He is Trauma. And he's also in the movies. He always plays a blind guy, usually doing really inappropriate stuff. I was visiting New York with my family. I must have been 16 years old, maybe. And I was at a sushi bar and some swanky place where like everybody sits, you know, communal chairs and everything. And the people next to me, it's this guy talking to this girl, and they're having some sort of business meeting, and I'm just eavesdropping a little bit, and he's just like, yeah, we just need more blood. Just need a lot more blood in this part. Just like, I'm just like, what is this? I was like, what is this coming from? And then I was just like, hold on, sir. I was like, are you Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma? And he was like, why, yes, I am. And he stood up and shook my hand, and he was like, how are you doing today? And I was just like, well, I can't believe that I'm at a sushi bar with you. And he was like, oh yeah, our headquarters, Trauma's is right around the corner. They've got like a a cement like statue of him. Like
that's amazing.
It's right like his head above it. And he was like, oh, here's like demo or the trailer to my new movie Poultrygeist. And he signed it. And
he just had it on.
He just had it on him. and his assistant was like this nice young lady, and he was like, he's like talking to this girl. She's like in her 30s, just like, can you just get more like, you know, we just need more blood and naked chicks in this part, like, doing fried chicken and stuff. And she's just like, yeah, okay, yeah. So that was my. It was pretty fun.
That is so perfect. Hold on, it's funny that you mentioned Poultrygeist. Hold on a second. So, I actually met him when he was touring with Poultrygeist, and he signed my copy of the one and only Surf Nazis Must Die.
That's a great movie.
Leroy's mama has to be one of the better protagonists in a movie ever, huh?
Definitely.
Oh,
I mean, there's so much trauma to go through, but yeah, that's definitely one of the good ones.
Yeah, totally. So you know, this is kind of you know, veering in the moment of us talking some horror movies here, and I was trying to think of a different idea, you know, something that's not just the same old, you know, maybe a couple of movies that were getting brought up and maybe challenge all of us. And so I looked at the tracking time of each track and pulled up. So let's see, the first song was, the whole album was 37 minutes, right? 30 or 38 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm close. Okay. So each movie that we chose from were based on the time of each track. So the first one being The Spirit of the Dinosaurs, 14 minutes. What did you guys choose for your favorite horror movie from 2014?
I think we both chose It Follows.
Dude, I'm there. Yes, sir.
Everything.
Oh man,
that movie fucking rules.
Nebraska, and one of those like lay down like craziest things, and
so good.
I couldn't believe it. Every time I watch that movie, I'm still like, run. But it's just so good. The budget, it's a real horror movie.
Yeah,
I agree.
Thousands that I was like, they made a horror movie. They made a real good one without hard to be campy at all.
No.
Yeah, totally.
Quality I was saying that seemed like was missing from some of the earlier years we'll talk about, which is like I had seen, it was like the Times or the New York Times or someone had featured that incredible opening shot, which is that really long tracking shot. The girl running out of the house, and it follows her all around. And it's this long tracking shot, and I saw that by itself. They were just talking about it as it was in previews or getting ready to open, and I was like, I never would have thought to go see this movie, but I have to go see it, and it had that quality like throughout it. Mm-hmm. So creative and so weird and all these unexplained. Remember the shell phone?
The shell phone?
Yeah.
Weird.
Like, I thought it it displaced you so well, like feeling like you were possibly in the future. But I remember they were watching TV on like an old TV.
Yeah, it's
very Twilight Zone.
Very Twilight Zone.
For sure,
And
for sure.
The
score to it was awesome. Yeah, I agree.
I put it on like all my playlists, like beach playlist. It's like.
Have you seen his other movie, Under the Silver Lake?
Yeah,
no, I have not seen that.
Great. So I'll say awesome title. I was super excited to jump into it, and then I spent about the first half of it trying to figure out like what the tone of it was.
Mm-hmm.
There were some elements, without spoiling it for Walt, that seemed dark and like like a murder mystery sort of thing. But then there was stuff that was like campy and seemed like purposefully like humorous. And it's Andrew Garfield. I don't really like. He's in the book movie. He plays the guy that he kind of fucks over. Just that. Like, there's that, and then it's set and it's just it almost goes to like if I had a weekend in LA, it would be like all those spots. And so whereas It Follows takes place in like a decrepit Michigan where he's from. It looks like fucked up. There were a lot of things that like offset me, and then I thought it was okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. It's funny because I brought up the title and I started thinking, I'm like, what the fuck was that movie about? I know I watched it like a couple of times because I remember liking it, but I'm like, I can't even pull what the hell the movie was about. So I have to wait on my review of it.
Sometimes with movies where the tone can throw you off, or because of a certain director, you're pulled one way, and then you're like, okay, that was not what I was expecting. You almost have to go back another time. Being like, okay, I get where it's sitting now. I have to, my honorable mention is for 2014 is very much one of those. So it's a movie that didn't necessarily come out in 2014, but an extended version and an hour and a half of footage did come out in 2014, and that's Fire Walk with Me, The Missing Pieces. Which growing up, my dad watched Twin Peaks when it originally aired, and we're both huge fans. But seeing that as a 7-8-year-old, my original boogeyman was not Freddy Krueger. It was not Jason. It was Bob from That was the most horrifying, it was just horrible to me. And I would hear that music like upstairs. My dad was watching it, and it just fucking annihilated me. And it stuck with me for a really long time. And when I came around to really loving his movies and understanding, he very much works in a kind of horror that is visceral, because his whole thing is mood and vibe.
Yeah.
And he does the sound design for it, since like Eraserhead to get under you.
Eraserhead, I've honestly never even finished because of the sound design. And I mean that I can't believe he made a movie that made me feel like I can't. It's just always like.
Yeah, it's horrible. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible.
The pieces stuff for Fire Walk with Me.
What? Say it one more time. Sorry.
The missing pieces, they called it, for Fire Walk with Me.
You know what's funny is I have never seen Twin Peaks. I've never finished it. I got through probably like the first like 2 or 3 episodes, and I don't know what happened, but I have to go back and I have to just put my mindset into like finishing it.
It takes a little bit of time, and there's it's kind of his take on, in a really weird way, like in a kind of a soap opera kind of vibe, because there's a lot of really goofy jokes. The soundtrack is like hilarious, like hilariously jazz at times, like but then like there's this like dense, like horrible evil, like something darker than I've ever seen in any movie.
That finale,
like they can just show the woods, and you're like, like, and then It's
Yeah.
and the new one, the because they came back to the day.
On season 3, yeah.
The third season continues like right. It's so bizarre, but that stuff's incredible too. I almost really cool, and like Trent Reznor does some of the music. It's right.
Yeah, he does in season 3. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the missing pieces part of the Fire Walk with Me movie is an hour and a half of stuff that they filmed and scored. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen that.
You would love it. It's like there's so many great extended things. Basically, like all the characters that are in Twin Peaks, and it's such a big world, are not in Fire Walk with Me, and they're all in these missing pieces. So it's almost like, I know someone online has made like a 3-hour something, like master cut of Fire Walk with Me where these scenes are spliced in.
Yeah.
And it builds more of the world. I have like qualms with the movie. I don't think a lot of it's all prequel to the series. And there's stuff that, you don't need to actually see a rape scene of something that the whole movie is based on.
Yeah.
But it's got all this great, bizarro, I mean, without spoiling it, David Bowie's in the movie, and he's got extended scenes in the missing pieces that are just like so far out.
Maybe I have.
He's in Fire Walk with Me for like
I know he's in
minute.
it for a little bit.
But the extended, oh man, it's so out. Anyway, so that's
So Fire Walk with Me was a movie. It wasn't like an extension, like a further like series or anything.
Canceled.
Yeah, the show got.
Oh, okay.
And the finale to season 2, is like the biggest cliffhanger ever. But it's the classic Lynch ending. I mean, that's how he would end. You don't need it wrapped fucked up.
Right.
And his brand of surrealism, setting the vibe, whatever. That set the bar for me growing up, being terrified. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Nice. Yeah. That rules. I'm gonna have to. It's one of those things where I just haven't set the time. Like anybody that I respect their thought on film or horror. Lots of friends I even have on here. They're like, I don't know why you haven't seen that show yet. So it's definitely something I'm more than aware of. I haven't finished it yet.
Oh man, I've talked to a lot of people who said the same thing as you, because they get through the first few and they're like, this is like, what is this? It just takes a little bit of time.
When it gets surreal, it's
you'll become addicted to it.
Shit.
I mean, it's really.
And that show's on ABC or.
It came, yeah. Of course, last.
Right. Right. Hey, this wraps at an hour. Do you mind if I end this really quick and then start it back up so it doesn't cut us off?
Yeah, that's fine.
The live feature on here does for some reason.
Sure.
Okay. All right, cool. Give me a minute here, and I'm gonna save this up so we don't lose this, and then I'll get you right back on here.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Cool.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.